I've already told you. Only person could be wrong here is God. Sorry, is you. Then there are those who would say to me, Kevin, I've done it all. And mind you, they don't have unforgiveness. But guess what their problem is? Impatience. Like what they got into happened overnight. Let me tell you something, yeah? And again, right here. Let me explain something to you very clearly. When it comes to deliverance, and I want to be very clear here, all right? And I'm not the only person who would experience this. Everyone who've had deliverance, let me tell you what is really happening with deliverance. When we hear the word deliverance, we only think being delivered from some oppressive or possessive evil spirit. But that's not deliverance. At least not that's not the entirety of it. Deliverance is twofold. Yes, the ultimate goal is to deliver you. But the truth is, everything that you are going through up until deliverance is training and teaching you for what you're about to become in life. So this is why that's why when they say to me, well, Kevin, how long? I heard about your story and I must say it was a powerful testimony. So with the ladies, like how long? Like, was it like 2 years or like how long? See, they're not interested in a lesson. And this is why they find themselves in the same position. Again, I telling you from experience. Remember what I told you with the first lady, right? I was delivered from that, but I didn't learn from it, and I end up with another lady who was worse than the one before. Now, thank God I had some lessons from that I had to kick in gear. But because I didn't learn from that, I found myself in basically, well, not the same situation because the second one was far worse than the first one. So deliverance isn't solely limited to being delivered from what's oppressing me. True deliverance is learning from what I have been through, what I'm going through. I'm learning from this. So when I am totally free from it, I will have an appreciation of what I went through. Now, let me give you an example of this. Joseph. Joseph was a perfect, he was the poster child of this. So Joseph, okay, who was his father, Jacob, his father, favorite kid, all right? His other brothers hated him so much that the coat of many colors that Jacob, his father, made for him, his brothers took him out, take it from him, put some animal blood on it, took it back to the father, said some animal probably killed him, we can't find him. They had him in some pit, and they later sold him to the Midianites, who in turn sold him to the Egyptians. But prior to that, it was their intent to kill him. So by the time I think Reuben, the eldest brother, came back from the father, they had already sold him. All right. Many years went by. He went to Egypt, where they hated the Hebrew people, but he was the butler in Potiphar's house, which was one of the officials of Pharaoh's kingdom, right? And he was then eventually accused of rape. Okay. He was then sent to prison, falsely accused of rape. He was sent to prison where he became a supervisor over the other prisoners. So, in so far, what we see? We see leadership in Potiphar's house, in a house where the people hated the Egyptian people, the Hebrew people. He now goes to prison where he now becomes a leader again. Now, guess what? Deliverance is going to come for him through his gift. But let's look at what's happening to him prior to the deliverance. He is being trained. He's being groomed. He's being outfitted through his adversities, through his circumstances. So, in other words, unlike you, he isn't saying, when am I going to get out of this? How long this got to be? And dismissing the lessons. He's literally gleaning. Now, guess what? While in prison, there were two guys, one a baker and one the armor bearer of Pharaoh, right? They had some falling out. He sent them to prison. Both of them had a dream. Joseph began to interpret the dream. He says, I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the baker, whoever. You were going to die and you were going to live. And the one who he said was going to die, Pharaoh did kill him. The other one who lived, he said, now listen, don't forget me when you leave from here. But I was in time for him to be delivered. He was still in training. Now Pharaoh has a dream, okay? And Pharaoh don't want to know what this dream means because it would not leave him. And the guy who survived Pharaoh's wrath based on the dream that Joseph had, he says, hey, Pharaoh, listen, I know a guy. Yeah, about 2 years ago when I was in prison, there was a guy who interpreted my dream, and he told me, he says, and everything he said come to pass, right? He said, what? Call this guy here. Now it's time for Joseph deliverance, right? However, he did not dismiss the lessons that led up to his deliverance. And that is where most people's problem is. Their problem is, Kevin, how long it was before you got delivered? What you had to go through? I mean, man, I can't take this no more. They're not interested in the lessons. They're not interested in how their baby daddy did them and what they should have learned and gleaned from that. So you know what happens? They go into another relationship and the same thing happened all over again. The same thing. They wasn't satisfy or glean from what they should have been learning. All they wanted to do was get out of this bad relationship. Forget the lessons. Forget it, because they saw everything as negative. So Joseph now goes before Pharaoh. Right. And after interpreting this man's dream and giving him the wisdom to articulate what the dream was showing, revealing, Pharaoh says, boy, you know what? I'm going to make you second in charge. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Me? But I didn't go to school. You didn't need to go to school. You know why? Because all of the troubles, the trials, the disappointment, all of the oppression and so on that you've been through, you learned from it. You were humble. Nowhere in the scriptures that I read, he mouthed off Potiphar, or he fussed at his superior in the prison and said, man, I don't feel none of that. He humbled himself until his day of deliverance came.